Hey, what's going on YouTube? HyperDark19 here. Finally back to bring you my long-awaited deck profile on Heroes. Hope you've had a good winter break so far, or wherever you are now. Some people are back in school, but for college kids, hope you're having a good winter break. I know I have been really busy since Christmas and New Year's, but yeah, finally I'm back. So yeah. Yes, so my deck profile in this segment, as I've already said and as you've heard for my past couple videos, is Hero Gate. Elemental heroes using Fusion Gate. So yeah, I'll get to the deck profile in just a minute, but first I just want to give a brief history on the elemental heroes themselves. Elemental heroes are an archetype of monsters that were first released back in the GX era. The first heroes that were released, to put it nicely, they were pretty crappy. They relied the whole archetype relied it was extremely unreliable. It relied on crappy normal monsters to fusion summon extremely situational fusion monsters. And it was one of those decks that everyone played for fun, but no one took seriously. But that all changed once the later GX series came out. Excuse me, which released I like to call them the Gen 2 heroes, and their support cards like Stratos, Ocean, Super Poly. A lot of people started to take heroes more seriously after that, especially when the good fusions were released, like the Shining and Absolute Zero. And later on, we'll get some other ones that have just been released in more recent Zayal and 5D sets. But yeah, heroes have actually been gaining quite a lot of popularity, and personally, I'm shocked that they haven't become a top deck because they're just that good. To be honest, I think I know why. With the Gen 2 cards, like I said, are the first step towards making Heroes one of the top decks of the format, and I think they truly have the potential to do that if you build them right. But right now, true hero decks, like you see them spliced into a lot of other deck types, like Hero Stun being the most obvious, but it doesn't center around the heroes themselves. Seeing a pure hero deck is very rare. Yeah, but the other ingredient, like I said, is Elemental Hero Esquiardo, which is, for you who don't know, is the dark fusion element, the dark Elemental Hero fusion, which is not set to come out for a little bit yet, but it will. And that is going to be the last piece of the puzzle for heroes to become the top deck of the format, in my opinion. Because up until now, the only thing that's been missing is the Dark World matchup and other matchups that heavily rely on dark monsters for Super Poly. So yeah, once that comes out, I see no reason why Heroes shouldn't be a top deck. All right, so now that I've gone on for my little history lesson, onto the deck profile of Hero Gate. So first off, we have the monsters. One Elemental Hero Stratos. I mean, obviously, I don't really have to explain this. Everyone knows how good Stratos is. It's no secret. Searcher, potential multiple MST, nice 1800 attack beater. Great card overall. Next up, the engine of this deck, we have 3 copies of Destiny Hero Diamond Dude. Yes, this is Diamond Gate. For those of you who don't know, Diamond Dude's effect, once per turn, you can mill the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if it's anything but a normal spell, it gets put on the bottom of your deck, but if it is a normal spell, then during your next main phase, you can activate the effect of that normal spell from the graveyard. What this means, it seems not that great, but what this means is that, let's say you let's say you flip Pot of Duality with this guy. Everyone knows that Pot of Duality is kind of limiting because you can't special summon or activate a second one during the turn that you play it. But if you flip it with Diamond Dude, you're activating its effect from the graveyard, not the card itself. So you can use Duality's effect to look at the top 3 cards and still special summon in the same turn. Yes, you heard me. You can special summon in the same turn if you use it with Diamond Dude. Also, flipping Destiny Draw with this guy gives you 2 free cards next turn. Most of the cards in this deck are normal spells, as you will see, so he's actually very, very consistent and helps out a lot with the engine, making cards non-negatable. So yeah, Diamond Dude is an awesome card, and I really like it. Next up, we have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Ocean. This guy, his effect is kind of useful in certain situations because you can return heroes from the graveyard to your hand or the field. Like you reuse Stratos, I guess. But in the graveyard is not typically where you want heroes to be with this deck. You want them to be banished. So yeah, Ocean is pretty good, but the main reason he's in here is for material for Absolute Zero, which is, in my opinion, probably the best of the hero fusions. So yeah, you definitely need 3 Oceans. Then next up, it's a very simple monster lineup, really. You have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Voltic. This guy is also a linchpin of your strategy because he's light, for one thing, which makes the Shining extremely easy to summon with this guy, Shining being the second best hero fusion. And also, his effect is ridiculous when you combo right with this deck. Starting out with a hand of 3 Voltics and Fusion Gate is actually an extremely broken hand because you can just banish 2 of them to summon the Shining. Special summon, not special, normal summon, the 3rd Voltic. If you can beat your opponent for 1,000, you summon back the other Voltic, beat for 1,000, summon back 3rd Voltic, Fusion summon for Shining, and do the whole thing over again. So you can almost achieve an OTK with 3 copies of this card and Fusion Gate. Like I said, Voltic returns removed from play cards, banished cards, if you will, which is very, very good, obviously, with this deck because Fusion Gate banishes stuff. And that's what you're trying to get. So bringing back Stratos with this guy is ridiculous. You search or MST their field. Bring back Ocean, maybe. Or the only thing this can't bring back is Diamond Dude, which is kind of a shame, but there's other cards for that. Voltic is amazing, bottom line. And last but not least, we have 1 teched copy of Elemental Hero Heat. This guy is mainly in here because he's my fire for Elemental Hero Nova Master, which I think is actually, it's not the best, but it's an extremely underrated hero right now. Fusion, that is. But yeah, Heat is also good just as a beat stick because many people don't understand that his effect boosts himself automatically by 200, so he's already an 1800 beater as soon as he hits the field. But if you have more than 1 hero, his attack gets bigger. This is actually a very good counter to Naturia Beast because one thing this deck hates is a first turn Naturia Beast. So this guy is one of your ways around that. With two heroes, like 1 or 2 heroes, he can easily become like a 2200 attack beater, which is awesome. So yeah, Heat is pretty decent card. Good tech. Alright, for the spells, this deck has minimal monsters and traps, but a huge spell lineup. So yeah, we're gonna get right to it. Got the staples here. Monster Reborn, obviously I don't have to explain myself with that. Dark Hole, again, obvious staple. And Heavy Storm. So those are the 3 staple cards. Now I move on to the tech choices for this deck. Well, first being the deck's signature card, 3 copies of Fusion Gate. Now, a lot of people think Fusion Gate is bad because using its effect and even fusion summoning in general is generally a -1 at the very best because you're giving up 2 monsters to summon 1, in some case 3 monsters to summon 1, and especially when they're banished because you can't manipulate them in the graveyard. However, like you've seen with Voltic and another card that I'll introduce called Parallel World Fusion, this deck has ridiculous ways to manipulate banished cards. So yeah, Fusion Gate is, like I said, the linchpin of the deck. Lets you fill up your hand with heroes, and you play Fusion Gate. You can spam fusions at a ridiculous rate, and I'll explain the good combos with this later on. Next up, we have 2 copies of Terraforming, just to fetch out the Fusion Gates, obviously. Also, it's a normal spell, so Diamond Dude mills this. You're looking good. Next up, we have Rhoda, good old Rhoda. Pretty much a staple in hero decks because most of them are warriors. The only one that's not a warrior in this deck, I believe, is Voltic. Heat might not be either, but definitely you can search out Stratos or Diamond Dude with this card because they're both keys to your strategy. With this deck, you pretty much want to get a first turn Stratos every game if possible. So yeah, this is one of the ways it makes it happen, and again, normal spell. Next up, may seem a little bit overkill, but we have 3 emergency calls. Like I said, with this deck, it's pretty imperative to get Stratos first turn every game, so having Rhoda and 3 of these things really goes a long way toward doing that. Also, this searches out the heroes like maybe Heat, I think, and definitely Voltic that are not warriors and can't be searched by Rhoda. So yeah, the purpose of having 3 of them, 1, it's a normal spell, like I said, and 2, it fills up your hand with heroes. You convert spells into monsters, basically, that you can use with Fusion Gate, and spamming fusion is what this deck is all about, so you definitely need 3 calls. Next up, what would a hero deck be without 2 copies of Destiny Draw? With this card at 2, I'm really having a great time because at 1, it was really stupid at 1 because that pretty much killed the engine and no one used it. So now that it's back to, a lot more people are going back into the Malicious engine. I'm not using Malicious in this deck, but Diamond Dude works very well with this, especially because he can mill it. So yeah, Destiny Draw provides a little bit more draw power for this deck. And yeah, just overall a great card, one of the best draw cards of the game. Speaking of draw cards and consistency, we have 2 copies of Pot of Duality. Now, you might yell at me saying, hey, wait, this deck is all about special summons. Pot of Duality is obviously terrible in here. Not true, because like I said, the interaction with Diamond Dude and this card is just too ridiculous to pass up. Also, this card gives the deck really good consistency because more often than not, you're not going to be fusion summoning on the first turn. So having one of these in hand first turn to get that Stratos or that Fusion Gate or that Super Poly that you want is really, really good. So yeah, I think you pretty much need 2 copies in here. I wouldn't play 3 though. Next up, one of my favorite tech choices, I've been going on about this for a while, Nobleman of Extermination in place of 2 MSTs. Like I said, this card I feel is better than MST in the current format, but I would always include it in the side deck. Yeah, Nobleman, I've explained before why it's a great card, so I'm not going to go into it now. But also, it's a normal spell, unlike MST, Diamond Dude can work with it, so yeah, that's another advantage. Next up, we have 2 copies of Miracle Fusion. Now, I said that with this deck, you really don't want and usually don't end up with too many heroes in the graveyard, but when you do, this is how you banish them and get all your cool interactions. So, yeah. You all know Miracle Fusion's a good card. So, yeah, this deck doesn't focus around it, but you still need it. Mostly because of the next card that I'm going to show you. Miracle Fusion's pretty good. Next up, like I said, the card that makes Miracle Fusion in this deck pretty much work. 2 copies of Super Poly. If you're running heroes without Super Poly, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot because Super Poly is one of the best cards, one of the best pieces of hero support, if not one of the best pieces of fusion support in the entire game. Because also one of the best cards in the game right now because it's just ridiculous what you can do with this thing. It hurts almost all the top decks universally. Dino Rabbit hates this card because they can't use Logia to negate it, and they're fire monsters, so you can get out your Nova Master and laugh in their face with their weak little dinosaurs. Agents hate this card because you can take their Charistia and go into the Shining. The list goes on. It's an extremely good card. The fact that it can't be negated makes it almost a broken card. Even though you do have to neg 1 yourself, kind of, and discard a card from your hand to use it, it's still amazing. And I would definitely run a 3rd copy in your side deck if you're playing this deck. So yeah, Super Poly's great. Also, the interaction with Zero is amazing because you can go, oh, pop Zero and your monster, I get a fusion, and all your monsters are gone. It's ridiculous. Won't even go into how ridiculous it is, but you get the point, I think. Next off, one of the new cards that came out in Legendary Collection GX, which I think is yet another key to making heroes competitive. Parallel World Fusion, just 1 copy, but I like this card a lot. I've considered running 2 copies in this deck, but drawing multiples of these without a Fusion Gate would really suck, so 1 is good for now. But yeah, for those of you who don't know what this card does, it allows you to return fusion materials for an elemental hero, not a destiny hero or a vision hero or any kind of other hero, just an elemental hero. Return fusion materials that are banished, shuffle them back into your deck, and summon the fusion monster with this card. So you could basically use banished monsters to fusion summon, which is awesome. However, the downside is that you can't special summon during the turn you activate this card other than the card you summon, which is a little bit of a downside, but like I said, since it's a normal spell, Diamond Dude can get around that quite nicely. Excuse me. And yeah, Parallel World Fusion is an excellent choice, especially with all the banishing stuff and fusion gates you're running in this deck. It gives you back, it makes a lot of those E-Calls and Rotas not dead as well because it can get stuff back into your deck you can search out with them. So yeah, I think it's a great card, great addition to the hero arsenal. And last for the spells, no hero deck would be complete without Future Fusion. Put stuff into the graveyard that you don't want to draw and provides food for Miracle Fusion. That's pretty much all it does. You know Future Fusion's good. It's a great card. And last but not least for the trap lineup, we have my favorite trap card of the format, 3 copies of Threatening Roar. I've gone into this before on how great I think this card is right now. It may change with the March 2012 ban list. So, yeah, I don't know how it's going to affect this card. But right now, I like this card. It's also a very easy thing to side out if you need to. So, yeah, I like this card a lot. Then, last 2 cards, we have somewhat staples. Mirror Force, just for a little extra defense. case you need it. You generally don't, but in case you need it. And Solemn Judgment to negate anything. You know how good it is. Not going to explain that. But yeah, that's the main deck, and now I'm going to go on to the extra deck. I know you're probably going to kill me because it's over 15 minutes, but whatever. So yeah, I love the fact that my videos go for more than 15 minutes. But yeah, extra deck. So first off, we have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. For those of you who play heroes, you know how good this card is, and for those of you who have played against them, you probably hate this card because you know how good it is. It was the first of the Gen 2 heroes to be released, and it's really a ridiculous card. Like I said, its interactions with Super Poly are amazing. Plus, with Fusion Gate, you can fusion summon one of these guys, then banish it and another one to summon, I don't know, like the Shining. Plus, you give it a boost, and you destroy your opponent's field. Yes, that works. So, yeah, Absolute Zero, you pretty much have to run 3. It's really great. Then next up, we have, like I said, the second best 3 copies of the Shining. This card alone makes Fusion Gate not a negative, because if you banish 2 monsters to summon this guy and then it gets destroyed, you get those 2 monsters right back to your hand, and you can fusion summon again for another one of these guys, or maybe something else like Zero next turn, or maybe even immediately if it was just destroyed. Yeah, but this guy alone makes Fusion Gate positive, so yeah, this guy is freaking amazing, especially in Fusion Gate decks. Next up, we have one of the other steps toward heroes being competitive, I think. 2 copies of V-Hero Adoration. This guy, his being released was a great boost to heroes, I think, because he's a 2800 beater with a pretty decent effect, which I'm not going to go into because of time reasons. But yeah, he's a 2800 beater. You can use any 2 hero monsters, any kind of heroes, to fusion summon this guy, and that's ridiculous because it makes him incredibly easy to summon. And he's a huge beat stick. I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. Like a great card, absolutely fantastic addition to heroes. Next up, I have 2 copies of the new fire monster, Elemental Hero Nova Master. When you destroy anything in battle with this guy, you draw a card. He's got 2600, so he's a decent beater. Like I said, this guy, I mostly put him in the extra deck because he's great against rabbit decks, because him and Super Poly laugh in the face of Dino Rabbit. So yeah, a great card, I think, very underrated. Might want to check him out. Then next up, also from a Legendary Collection, E-Hero Great Tornado, another one of the underrated heroes out there. 2800 beater again. When this guy, you pretty much can only summon him using Stratos, but whatever. When he's fusion summoned, you have the attack of all your opponent's monsters. That is amazing. It's like a super Gale, and it's almost got twice the attack strength of Gale. So yeah, I'm not going to even explain how amazing that guy is. It's pretty obvious. Then next up, as a tech choice, I have Elemental Hero Gaia in here. A lot of people do play boss monsters that are Earth, and this is also a very good counter to the really, really supremely annoying Gotchi Gotchi, because it's Earth, and with Super Poly you can get rid of it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Gaia's in here. He's a pretty decent monster too. I would advise putting him in the extra deck if you play heroes. Next up, the last fusion monster in the extra deck, we have Dragonite Dracoquest. Most people ignore this card in general because its prohibitive summoning requirements make it really bad. But this is a great guy to have in your extra deck for heroes, because if your opponent tries to get out like a Stardust Dragon or Scrap Dragon or any one of the other Dragon Synchros that are really good and most people go for, you can just sacrifice any hero monster you have on the field with Super Poly and their monster, kill their monster, and bring this guy out. 3200 beat stick. You're not going to use his effects, but like I said, 3200 beat stick. Pretty awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much the explanation behind that. And last but not least, for the extra deck, the first time I'm using the new Xyz monsters, I have 2 copies of number 39 Utopia. Not only does this guy, he's a 2500 beat stick, provides extra protection with his negating ability, and he also provides like a big fusion-esque beat stick when you don't have Fusion Gate or Miracle Fusion or Super Poly or any of your good cards. So yeah, he's pretty much your backup, but also he's light, so when he goes into the graveyard, he's good Miracle Fusion food for the Shining, and also if he's on the field with no materials for Fusion Gate. So yeah, I really like this card. I don't generally like Xyz monsters, but I think this guy and Gotchi Gotchi are definitely the 2 best Xyz monsters to use right now. And that's pretty much it for the deck profile. Hope you enjoy it. It's been working pretty well so far. I plan on testing it out in my locals tonight. So yeah, and I hope you had, like, once again, hope you had Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, anything else I'm missing. My next deck profile is going to be Ojamagachi. So yes, I'm making an Ojama deck. It's time to put the quick draw to rest. So yeah, stay tuned. Yep, slipped my mind there, but yeah, peace out, YouTube.